Hey everybody, I'm Adam Short, and today I'm going to be talking about the report for the refrigeration cycle. This is going to be very similar to the lead presentation on the refrigeration cycle, since a lot of the slides are the same. So the experimental objectives for this presentation were to better understand vapor compression refrigeration. We've been talking about thermodynamic cycles today. So we're going to better understand the specific cycle through the application of a heat pump. You're going to perform some thermodynamic analysis, determine the coefficient of performance, which is a metric commonly used to measure the effectivity of different thermodynamic systems, and you're going to determine the heat pump inlet power and amount of heat produced. So this is our experimental setup. It's not exactly the same, but the lab looks very, very similar. Notably, there's a large instrumentation panel above this setup that's here, and everything is controlled from the DAC software, which was a little confusing when we got into the lab, but we realized that all controls were through the DAC software. So basically, you've got your pumps, your evaporator, condenser. We'll go over more on the next slide too. Okay. So yeah, you're going to have your expansion valve, your condenser, your compressor, and your evaporator. And what you're going to use is you're going to understand that within thermodynamics, heat will flow from high to low. You're going to want everything to go to equilibrium. And so if you have some sort of room or system that's very cool, or you want it to be cool, like refrigeration, you want the inside of your refrigerator to be cool, the ambient temperature wants to go in and equalize there. So to avoid that, you want to understand your major principles is that liquids absorb heat when changed from liquid to gas, and gases release heat when changed from gas to liquid. And so by using those physical principles, you're able to not break the laws of thermodynamics, but use them to your advantage through this cycle. So your heat between compression and condensation, heat is transferred, or as you condense, heat is transferred from the refrigerant to the outside air, and then as you go through the cycle back to your evaporator, heat is transferred from the inside air to the refrigerant, and so you're not breaking any of your laws there, and everything works out appropriately so that you can keep your fridge cool or your house cool. So, as mentioned, you have heat moving into the evaporator, and then you put work in as you compress. It's not a perfect system. You have to put in energy in order to get this to do what you want. And then you have heat released, and then you expand, and you repeat it all over again. You'll find that the diagram that we have matches pretty well, approximately, down the line from this idealized graph. So the procedure was very, very simple. You had two major exercises. The first exercise was to power up the pump and through the software, switch on pumps 1 and 2, set your flow rate and your compressor to 40%, and then you would collect the data into this table. And then for the second exercise, you were going to do the same thing, but for different flow rate cases. Go ahead. So this is the data that we collected. It's kind of just there. If anyone has any questions about any particular data points, I'll have questions open at the end. But right here you can see, actually if you go back a few slides to the one that had all the instrumentation, a couple more slides. This one, so all of these, I guess I should note, all of these locations are temperature and pressure sensors, and if you go back to the slide that we were just on, that's where they're labeled here, and they show that they're obtained values in bar, watts, and degrees Celsius. That's what the software released. Go ahead. So for the first exercise, you have your inlet power. It was measured here, and that's it in kilowatts. It's about 0.4 kilowatts. Then the heat generated, you use your simple heat generation formula. When you plug that in, you get about 1.3 kilowatts, and then your COP ends up being about 3.3, which is about right for what you want for this cycle. And then, again, you have to find enthalpy at each of the points that we talked about on that cycle. So this is the cases that were used here, and then the enthalpy that's here. The cases went from 6 liters to 4.5 liters to 3 liters per minute. And what you see in those tables is that they really aren't dramatically different values. They're all pretty close together considering the flow rates are massively different, although there is a notable difference, but probably only 5 or so percent between each of the cases. Go ahead. And then finally, this is the R134 diagram from the back of the book. And you can see that's about where everything sits. Like I said, everything's about 5% apart from each other, so pretty clean cycle there. Not much of note since it wasn't spectacularly different between each of the cases. Go ahead. All right. So does anybody have any questions? All right. Thank you guys.